Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Sharing the Light. We are here to this episode, as always, joined by the senior pastor of the Sunshine Cathedral, the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins, and we're also joined by Reverend Tanya Guzman, who is the Minister of Congregational Life here at the Sunshine Cathedral. And on this episode, we're going to be looking at the topic of Stop Gay Bashing for Jesus. So, Stop Gay Bashing for Jesus is a very broad, but yet really have a really good focus about what it is that we're looking at, especially in light of what has been happening so often in the news, especially in the United States recently around gay bashing. So can you enlighten us?
Quit doing it. Stop. Stop doing it. That's what I'm saying. Quit it.
It's one of those things where words can harm.
Of course, of course. And this, oh my gosh, there's so many now. I forget who's who and where's where. Like in North Carolina and Kansas and Maryland and Florida, these people, these people, preachers. Preachers, these
let's put them in context.
Preachers, yes, who have made sort of gay bashing for Jesus their shtick, and I just can't imagine that anything good comes from that. Not only are they obviously hurting gay people and the people who love gay people, their friends, their families. So not only is that abusive and horrible, but I can't imagine that they really think anything good. Is anyone being fed because you did that? Is anyone being clothed? Is anyone being healed? Is anybody happier? Is anybody have more peace in their life? Is there less war in the world? What good is happening because you are saying our hatred of same-gender loving people is somehow righteous? And what a desperate attempt to say our prejudices are okay because we found a verse in a book, or because it's an old tradition. Why does your prejudice need that much validation anyway? And it's sort of cowardly, really. Own your prejudice. If you don't like gay people, you don't like gay people. Just own that and have the courage of your convictions. Don't hide behind religion. Don't say, I don't like gay people because that's the religious thing to do. I don't like gay people because God doesn't like gay people. And to be a good God person, I have to hate those nasty gays. How cowardly. Just own your prejudice. I don't understand same-gender love. It doesn't make sense to me. That's whatever. Own your prejudice. Stop blaming it on God and stop pretending. Stop disguising your prejudices as values and pretending that your hate speech is actually the preaching of righteousness.
I think that's very interesting when you said own it, because this is exactly what they're doing. I mean, they're not owning it, but they hiding behind Jesus. They put it and they pretend that they are representing God when they're doing this. And it's interesting because one of our previous episodes was can gay call themselves Christians, and we were talking about how the Christian community, the Christian church, tells us that gay people cannot call themselves Christians because they say that we're not worthy, that we're sinful. And it's interesting because when we look at the life and teachings of Jesus, his life and teaching was of service, of social justice. Feeding the poor, fighting for for those who couldn't fight for themselves. And then these people that are calling themselves Christians, then they're doing the opposite. Okay, they are the one oppressing people, and then they, not even letting those people, even try to call themselves Christians. And so I think it's very interesting how the ones who try to call themselves, the righteous, the one who are Christian, are doing totally the opposite of what Jesus would actually do.
It is an interesting, and by interesting I mean horrifying, devastating, historical flip-flop. Jesus is an oppressed person within the Roman Empire. His country is occupied. He is denied citizenship. He is on the margins. He is a poor, possibly illiterate peasant in an occupied country in this vast empire. He, from the margins, empowers people, touches the untouchables, loves the unlovables, gives people the courage to believe in themselves, even when they're being told that they are basically garbage that is disposable, and develops such energy around that becomes a threat to power structures, a threat to the status quo, and he is executed, the way that rebellious slaves were executed by crucifixion. That was part of the Roman political system. That was not part of a divine plan. Jesus was not the first, the last, or the last person to be crucified. He wasn't the only person that day to be crucified. That was part of the Roman system. It was part of an evil system. So, that we glorify that is odd, but that's another show. So here is this person who is in an oppressed community, who stands up to oppression. And within a couple of hundred years after his death, Christianity starts evolving into the system that Jesus opposed.
Exactly.
That instead of God being the power of love within us, God is this emperor in the sky. Instead of Jesus being this prophetic liberator who stands up to the powers of injustice, Jesus is the heir apparent to the empire. And instead of followers of Jesus being these healers and these justice workers and these peacemakers, they are the nobility in the empire. The church becomes the Roman Senate, basically, and it's a place of privilege, and we decide who's in and who's out. And the church that he's evolved into this powerful institution is so antithetical to Jesus' life and to his message and for what he actually lives his life for and gave his life for. And so this gay bashing from the pulpit, that is just the modern day equivalent of the imperial forces coming in and taking over the village and crucifying the dissidents, and that is so. And to do it in Jesus' name is just bizarre. It is ahistorical. It is immoral, and it is an insult to Jesus' legacy.
I often wonder, kind of, in looking at a lot of things that preachers are saying and surfing the television channels, and most of the sermons I hear on television, they're going to include something about gay bashing or something about the gay community, and I often wonder if ministers, I'm just going to use that term very generically, but just across the board, were to spend more time focusing on bashing the isms of society. How much of a difference that will make in our society and in our world.
We're not even bashing, just addressing.
Well, bashing, but just addressing the isms of our times. How much of a difference that will make in the world, as opposed to just isolating this group or that group because we don't understand, or we take it out of historical context, but just really lifting up what it means to address.
And what has stirred a lot of this up is gay marriage. That there are states now in the U.S. and there are countries beyond the U.S. that allow, and listen to that word, allow. I mean, you see the power structure, you see the privilege that this is a group that's being allowed in some places to live with the same dignity and equality that other people take for granted. So anyway, but there are a few, and only a few places that allow same-sex marriage. Meanwhile, there's 30 states that disallow it, and there are state laws and constitutions that actually have legalized discrimination, and so that's and part of this struggle for, are we going to recognize the humanity of people who are wired to love and be attracted to people of the same gender rather than the opposite gender. And it really is that simple. I can't imagine. I've never understood why people are so up in arms. Some people say, well, I like tall men, and some people say, I short women, or I like blondes, or I like people who wear glasses or don't wear glasses. We have all these things. But if what I like is someone who shares a Y chromosome, or someone who lacks a Y chromosome, that is the deal breaker. How bizarre! Right. How insane that you think that God can't wrap God's mind around that, and that is something worth preaching against and fighting for in political and religious circles. How silly! But that is what's starting it. Is that as marginalized people, and this happens every time marginalized people start to become empowered in some ways, there's a big pushback, and that's what a lot of this preaching is against. It's because people are threatened by the possibility of equality. Some comedian said, once you start giving gays and lesbians equal rights, everyone's going to want them, and that really is the pushback, is that these people that we've always known we were better than, now they're encroaching on our privilege. They will say, even the Roman Catholic hierarchy will say that the same gender marriage, that somehow threatens the institution of marriage. What a lie. What a lie. Not one heterosexual person on the planet has ever been forced to marry someone of the same gender. There's no threat. Your family's not threatened. That a minority of people get to have the same rights that you have in their own context doesn't take anything away from you. And this is a fight for the privilege to keep their privilege and to keep the marginalized in the margin. And that they are using God's name in the fight means they are using God's name in vain.
Wow, well, very, very enlightening and engaging conversation, and I think as we continue to look at this broad picture of it, that there's a lot more that can be said about that. But I want to thank you, too, for joining us in this discussion today, as we have been talking about stop gay bashing for Jesus.
Stop doing it.
So thank you for joining us, and have a great day. Thank you for joining us for another great episode of Sharing the Light. Tell your friends about this online ministry, and when you're in Southeast Florida, make sure you worship with us on a Sunday at the 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. service. And now for a final word from our senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins.
Email me at durrell@sunshinecathedral.net if you have a religious question or if you'd like to subscribe to our daily devotional magazine, Spirit and Truth. We'll send it anywhere in the United States for an annual donation of any size. You can also email us prayer requests, or you can make donations on our website, www.sunshinecathedral.org. You'll also want to check out our great performing arts series, religious education classes, conferences, and other exciting activities. For now, we wish you many blessings on your spiritual journey.